So Maggie's coming. She can edit us out.
So we're doing this experiment in class where we're trying to figure out if salt water evaporates, because we were watching something, we were doing something totally different, and then we had all these questions about, well, why isn't it the rain salty if it's evaporating off the ocean? I was like, that's a really good question. Mm-hmm. So somebody was onto something, because they said that salt is a solid, if you're thinking about matter, and then the solid can't evaporate. So
but the solid, doesn't a solid, it dissolves in the water, and then would it go back to its original state when it evaporates? It has to go back to a solid. It can't go up to being a gas. Is that?
But then that means that the ocean would actually get more salty.
But there's only a set amount of salt in the ocean. I don't think it ever goes up or goes down. It stays the same, right?
But
why not? If
right.
the water is evaporating and leaving the salt, assuming it leaves the salt.
But then there's always water coming back in. It goes up. I mean, that's the water cycle. It doesn't go up, and it's not like an open end over there. Like, it cycles back around. So it evaporates, it comes back down. It evaporates, it comes back down.
So the same amount of water leaving essentially is the same amount of water that's coming in.
Roughly, I guess.
Roughly. So therefore, there's never really any more, unless the Dead Sea.
But, well, yeah, the Dead
What
Sea
about the
has
Dead
more.
Sea?
The Dead Sea is all salt.
Has a higher salt content. That's why you can float in it, right?
And that's why there's nothing can live in it.
Mm-hmm. Because
it's so.
And that's why it's
salty.
the Dead Sea. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
But then that brings up is there only a set amount of water in the world?
Including rainwater?
Because it's always circling around. So is there only like?
Well, we learned the other day that there's a certain amount of salt water, and there's a certain amount of fresh water and frozen fresh water, and so we know like the percentages of that on Earth, and I don't think that really changes so much. Maybe it just
so kind of at any given moment, the certain percentage of salt water, there's a certain percentage of fresh water.
So it's always cycling.
It's gotta be.
What about animal consumption, plant consumption? Plants
Human
absorb water. Human consumption. I mean, I know it comes back out, but it comes out less because we absorb. So how's water made?
how's water made?
How's water
Who made water?
Where does water originate from? Where is the start?
You see, the water fairies come down. Okay, so back to so water can evaporate off of the ocean.
Yes.
But if we know that the ocean does not get any saltier, then how is that? Because the salt would have to come there. It just stays there, but then it would make it more salty. But we're adding more water from rain, which is fresh water, so it's not changing the salt content.
And the amount that evaporates.
To notice.
With how large the ocean is and how much evaporates, it can't be like
really
it's gonna
over an ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not gonna tilt it to be way too salty, unless if we have like a extreme evaporation, which I don't think is, because when it evaporates, it might be warm over on the Pacific, but it's cold over in the Atlantic and raining.
So
I don't know.
What about this question that we're trying to answer? Does salt evaporate?
I think the answer would be no.
I think no.
But how do you know? How do you test that?
If it stays on the rim of the cup. So if you look at where is this? I'm picturing this place in my head, and there's salt crust on the edge, on the rim of it. The water evaporates out and it leaves a crust.
I've seen salt crust like that before.
Yeah, and I think that comes back, like that will dissolve back into the water.
That's evidence of the salt not evaporating.
Not evaporating. Ooh, evidence.
So the evidence of salt not evaporating would be the film left on the cup.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't necessarily have to test or taste the evaporated water.
No, because what you would do.
It would be interesting to see though if it tasted salty.
Ooh,
I don't know how you do that.
Who wants to do that?
You'd be surprised. I had a couple chugging some salt water. Smart.
Okay, now go
so smart.
chug some regular water in order to make up for that.
So where we're at right now is we have all the groups decided to start with a cup of salt water and a cup of fresh water and mark the level of the water.
All right.
So that's where we're at.
Okay.
So we're looking for evidence of salt either evaporating or not evaporating.
I wonder what the rate of if there's an equation for like rate of evaporation.
That sounds sciencey.
Hey Siri, is there an equation for the rate of evaporation of water?
Well, Kelly.
Okay, I found this on the web. Is there an equation for the rate of evaporation?
Why does your Siri have an accent like
I
that?
know.
The other one annoys me. British Siri.
Is there? She said she found it.
Should we weigh our cups?
Evaporation.
Does it matter if we weigh our cups? Because no one weighed it, but I guess we still could.
I feel like you should weigh. And then you weigh the cup empty. You weigh the cup with water. And then you come out with what the water weight is. But you come out with only the what would be interesting would be to weigh. You can easily figure out the weight of the cup. And you can subtract that and be left with the water.
Mm-hmm.
But then with the water salt, to figure out what the weight of salt is. If that is a different weight, if you can get it down low enough, and I think we have.
What do you have to
scales.
weigh the salt before you put it in?
Well, maybe. I mean, but weigh the salt water cup and see if you put in the same amount of water, and then
Which they did. I made them measure, and everything
Yeah.
is measured.
and then see if the salt water cup weighs more when you subtract the cup weight. If it weighs more, then salt
And this
has added
says-
more weight to it.
Does adding heat increase the rate of evaporation?
Yes,
Oh,
it does.
yes, it does.
Yes, it does. We learned that,
So
didn't we?
So then, if you were to take you subtract the cup, the weight of the water, then you're left with the weight of the salt. If the weight of the salt never changes, if you can continuously
then you
weigh,
know it didn't
then you know
evaporate.
yeah.
Okay. So you have to get the weight of
which I'm
each
thinking
cup.
it probably won't.
Yeah.
That's my hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
Is that won't evaporate?
Yes. I think that's what most of us are thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then our evidence to support that claim is that it doesn't rain salt water.
Right.
Yeah.
So it stays somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So we would need to measure each cup.
Weigh.
Yeah. Weigh the cups. Weigh with the water in it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But make sure it's the same weight of water. So almost go back to the drawing board, because if you measure a cup, like
I think
a
most
cup
of them use
isn't-
8 ounces.
They
That's okay.
really, yeah. But if you do a little bit, did they go below the line? Were they on the line? Were they above the line? That's going to add, like it has to
weigh
be.
it.
Yeah, you have to weigh it.
So in that case, you have to weigh the measuring cup first,
Mm-hmm.
then weigh it with water, then subtract that.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have to do the exact same thing to the saltwater cup, because
Or you
that has to be the control.
you
variable.
balance out like on my kitchen scale. Do you guys, when you bake, have a kitchen scale?
I don't
No.
bake.
Oh, well, I got into it for a bit. And I had to wait because a cup of flour can weigh differently due to how compact you pack it in. So
Oh.
if you always consistently weigh it, then you're going to get, like with a pie crust, it has to be in order to get the best.
No
wine.
wonder my pie crusts are always terrible.
Yeah. And also, humidity plays a huge role into a pie crust. But you can.
And it will play a role in our evaporation.
Yes,
There.
yes, that's an uncontrollable variable. You can tee out or balance out. So I would put my measuring cup on my scale, and I would press like zero out, and it would state that the cup weighs
that's
nothing.
Yeah.
And then you can put your water in there, and that cup will always be the same. So then you can measure from there into all of them.
Okay. Might have to go back to the drawing board.
I don't know. That's something to talk about with them. Just when you're starting, you'd be.